Mr. Schinas, thank you very much for this opportunity and welcome to Iraq. European countries are currently dealing with a big diplomatic efforts to make sure migrants from Iraq, Syria, Kurdistan Region and other countries won't reach Belarus and then eventually other countries in Europe. Can you talk about those efforts? What are you currently doing? And tell me, what are you doing today in Baghdad?
First of all, I should start by saying that this is not an ordinary migratory situation as we know it. This is not regular arrivals. This is not the classical migratory routes. This is different. This is a major geopolitical hybrid attack against the European Union by an authoritarian regime which is instrumentalizing human suffering for political gains. They use people as political pawns to attack Europe, and they collude with smugglers so that innocent people are led to believe that they can safely travel, say, from Erbil to Germany, whereas in practice they buy a ticket to hell, a forest -5 with no open border to cross. So I am embarking on a tour in the region to discuss with governments of countries of origin and transit to make sure that they give us a hand, they work with Europe in this difficult moment, both at the humanitarian level to help these people on the ground, but also in helping us put an end to this unprecedented phenomenon. People cannot be used as political instruments.
What are your expectations from those countries to do for you?
There is a two-track approach in my conversations with these countries. First is an approach, a transit approach, if you like. We ask them to make sure that their carriers or carriers operating through their airports do not continue to contribute to this hybrid threat, hybrid attack. And I'm very encouraged that all my interlocutors at the United Arab Emirates, in Lebanon, and in Turkey, because Turkish Civil Aviation Authority also decided to put an end to this flight. So I'm very encouraged that we're getting cooperation on the flights, and we hope that the numbers now of flights will go from the dozens to zero. And the other track is a track with countries of origin, where their nationals are being part of this instrumentalization, as is the case in Iraq, and that's why I'm here today, to work together with these governments to make sure that the people know what is happening, that they do not buy the lies of the smugglers, and that we can do the best we can to bring them back and help them start anew.
You mentioned that Belarus is colluding with smugglers. Can you talk about that? Is there any evidence of that collusion between Belarus and those smugglers? And who are those smugglers, according to your information? Are they from countries of origin or other countries or transit countries, as you mentioned?
We have ample evidence and trustworthy intelligence that shows that there is indeed this collusion between the international smuggling networks and the Lukashenko regime in Belarus. The people are led to believe that they get a student visa or a tourist visa or a work permit, and that they can safely cross a border and find themselves into Europe. And this is not happening, because upon their arrival in Minsk, they are escorted by special forces of the Belarus regime. They're put in buses and they are ferried to this infamous forest where they simply dropped, abandoned in their sort, and they're not allowed neither to go in, neither to come back. So this is what is a verticalized business, a collusion of smugglers, and probably the last dictatorship in Europe. and we are very keen to put an end to it.
What is the goal of the Belarusian government in this collusion with smugglers and bringing lots of migrants to the borders of Europe? What are they trying to achieve?
You would probably remember that this summer, Minsk, in an unprecedented move, they used fighter jets to ground a civil flight linking two EU capitals, Athens and Vilnius, to bring it down to Minsk and arrest an opposition leader. Immediately after that, the European Union introduced sanctions to the regime, and I think very rightly, because this is unheard of, that civilian planes are threatened by military jets in Europe. That's something that we don't want to see ever. But then the regime thought that the best way to respond to the sanctions by Europe was to organize these hybrid attacks, weaponizing human suffering and migratory flows. This is preposterous, is unscrupulous, and it will not succeed.
What do you think Russia's role is in this matter? Do you believe that this is a campaign by Russia against other countries in Europe?
I'm not in a position to say so. I do not have evidence to that. I have ample evidence of the involvement of the Belarusian regime, and I don't think that the Russians would engage in such a blatant attack to the European Union. Now, I'm not sure again how much they know of what Minsk does and how much they don't know. That's not of my business. What is my business is to talk to our partners and friends in the region and build a coalition of friends that would help us put an end to this phenomenon.
In a speech a few days ago, Joseph Borrell mentioned that most of the migrants are coming from a Kurdistan region of Iraq. You in the European Union, how do you view that? Why do you think is that?
I don't like to engage in some sort of a running commentary of a situation. People move. The prevailing hypothesis is that people move because they are convinced by smugglers on the basis of lies. If you are somewhere in the region and you see an announcement that we can take you, say, from Erbil to Frankfurt or from Beirut to Munich, then you're led to believe that this is a normal business offer. It is not. It's a lie, and it's a scam, and people should not engage. So I appreciate the opportunity that you give me to talk to the people in the region, in the region where KRG operates, to say that don't buy these lies, don't move because you are not part of a more ordinary migratory flow. You are part of something different, and you are part of a cheat, and especially those with families, kids, and vulnerable people should refrain from traveling.
Are you in coordination with the Kurdistan regional government, and how are they assisting you in this matter?
I had planned to visit Erbil, and in fact I was willing to continue after Baghdad to Erbil, but I understand that the leadership of the KRG are not in town, so I couldn't organize it on this occasion, but it's my commitment to travel to Erbil and talk to the leaders and make them see also themselves that they have a duty to help us. Because this is the moment where Europe counts its friends, and we would like to believe that we have friends in Erbil as well.
And how do you want them to help you? What do you think they can do for you?
I think the main message is to help us project through public diplomacy accurately this message of do not travel. I think it is very important. that we say it, also the Iraqi government is saying it, but it's important because there is a sizable number of Iraqis of Kurdish origin who travel or have already traveled and they find themselves stuck in the forest. And I think that the leadership of KRG would have a role in giving us a hand in that.
Can you talk about the role the United Nations is doing? Now it's turning to be a humanitarian crisis on that border. How are they assisting with that situation?
Well, this is indeed the moment where the humanitarian imperative prevails, as we're stopping the number of flights and we sort of stop the arrivals. Attention now will shift on the people on the ground, those who are stuck there. And for that, and this was also discussed today in Baghdad with the government, we need to start organizing return flights, people coming back. And for that, we will need the Iraqi government to talk to the Belarusian government to start organizing both voluntary returns and non-voluntary returns. And we are ready to help in cooperation with the UN agencies, especially UNHCR. Probably you know that the UNHCR do have an office in Minsk, and they have been given access to the forest 3 days ago. So their role will be crucial in organizing both the support to those stranded in the forest, but also these return flights that we desperately need. And we are also eager and ready to assist the Iraqi government not only with the flights, but also with reintegration and readmission support so that people who return can start anew, that they can build again their lives with our help.
Are you providing any funds to the Iraqi government and the KRG through that effort?
I assured the Iraqi government today that they can count on the European Union to support readmission and reintegration efforts once these flights start to materialize.
There was a statement by a UN spokesperson. He said that the UN believes that there should be a pathway for some of those migrants who are not able to return to their countries of origin. What do you think about that? Do you think there is a chance for some of those to maybe go through the border and end up in a European country?
I have never in my political life commented on comments. This is a principle that I have always kept, never violated, so I will not do it now. But what I can say as a general observation is that Europe will remain a destination of asylum for those who flee war, for those who flee dictatorship and persecution. But this is not a situation we find ourselves now in the Belarusian world. This is an attack. This is not a family asking for asylum. These are thousands and thousands of people that are being pushed in an organized way by police forces and special forces of the Lithuanian regime, and that's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I prefer to stick to the message that I have already given to the people who are tempted to believe the smugglers not to. They are not buying a ticket to Europe, they're buying a ticket to a nice cold forest.
Obviously, the humanitarian issue is a big problem for the EU, for many countries. Why haven't you been able to provide a better humanitarian condition for those migrants stranded on the border? Is there a concern that a humanitarian disaster might happen if the situation remains as is?
Well, you don't wait for me to tell you that Belarus is a closed state, is a state where there is no offer, there is no access, there is no possibility to contribute. So they have organized their situation around the forest that they think suits their strategic interest to attack Europe, but at the same time uses these people as hostages. So the only way that we have to help them is through the UN agency, UNHCR, who have been only recently, 3 days ago, allowed to have access there. I met Filippo Grandi, the High Representative for Refugees of the UN, 5 days ago in Brussels, and we agreed that everything they can do to relieve the humanitarian situation on the ground, they can count on our support. And as I was telling you earlier, it is now imperative that these return flights start to get organized as soon as possible so that the people are taken out of this predicament.
Is there a concern by the EU that of a possibility of an armed conflict between Belarus and Poland? And what would you do if that happens, if this situation escalated?
I prefer to stick to normal scenarios, and the situation we're facing, it is indeed a security threat.
But there was a casualty, a Polish soldier.
Of course there is a casualty, because when we have thousands of people weaponized, instrumentalized, the potential
it's a very tense situation.
The potential to something go wrong is there. But I wouldn't think that there is an inevitability or an automaticity of this evolving into a major war, if you know, operations or security in the classical term. We're facing a very atypical hybrid situation, and we have to stop it. That's what matters now. Stop it and help the people there.
What are your long-term plans to deal with illegal migration to Europe?
Since September last year, we have presented, and it's now on the table, a comprehensive, holistic package for a new EU pact for migration and asylum. It may sound weird, strange, but the European Union, which is the biggest market in the world, has the second biggest currency of reference, accounts for 10% of the population, 20% of the world GDP. This Europe that buys vaccines does not have a migration policy. This is mind-blowing and needs to change.
It's very interesting, yeah.
And on the basis of these proposals that we have now put on the table, this is our last chance to have a meaningful European migration policy that would allow us to work in a system that makes sense, not as we're doing it now as firefighters. We need to do it as architects. And the proposal is there. It's a proposal that combines elements of responsibility, solidarity, border management, relations with third countries. And I very much hope that under the French presidency, we will be able to make good progress in agreeing on it.
Since you're in Iraq and you intend to go to Erbil maybe in a near future, what's your message to the people here? What is the message that you want to deliver to the people of Iraq and the people of KRG?
Yeah, probably the main message, before getting to the timely message, the main message is that the people of Iraq at the KRG, they should view the European Union as a friend. We are a friend of this country. We have proven it in the past, and we will continue to stand by Iraq as it gains its way back to stabilization and democracy. This is a country that fought terror. This is a country that came through very different predicaments and many important difficulties. It's a country that benefited from the support of Europe in the past, and we want to see it succeed. Everyone that I know in Europe wants to see Iraq succeeding. So this is my main message. We are your friends and we'll stand by you. The other message, and this is precisely how it happens between true friends, is that true friends speak open. And this openness brings me to the message that you should not allow yourselves to be instrumentalized, buy into the lies of the smugglers, and think that this is an ordinary migratory regular movement. It is not. It is a major hybrid threat. It's an attack, and you should not be part of it.
Are you happy with the level of here in Baghdad and Erbil they've been doing so far to deal with that issue? Are you satisfied with it?
Yes, I'm happy because Iraq stopped the flights already in July. They have also put an end to the operations of the 2 consulates of Belarus in this country. They have been engaging on return flights, and I got the promise that they will continue to do so. But I asked them to maintain this line and also at the same time make sure that no smuggling operations happen through this country, and that if there is evidence of smuggling, should be firmly persecuted. And I think there has been some recent successes to that regard. These are the same messages that I will be getting to KRG when I hopefully, inshallah, be able to travel there soon.
One last question, since you mentioned smuggling. Do you have any evidence of active smuggling networks within Iraq, international smugglers network, or?
I think there is evidence of international smuggling operations that are very elaborate, that they have their tentacles very ably crafted in many parts of this region. My interlocutors in government here in Iraq today in Baghdad assured me that they are ruthlessly persecuting these networks, and they have announced that they had some recent spectacular successes of such networks operating in this country. So I encourage them to keep up this good work.
Mr. Schinas, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, and all my very best to Erbil.
Thank you.